It's time! Hey, Dave, listen up, please.
Scotty, that's a great question. I got a question for you, though, Scotty. You know that there's other players on our team besides Desi.
But what are you waiting for?
I don't know, something amazing.
Jones for three, and he banks it in.
Bailey, up and in, and a chance for three.
Welcome into the basketball podcast of Mid-America. Seth Campbell joined by Scotty Bordelon. We are going to break down last night's game as the Razorbacks, they beat Southern University 79-44. And then we've got an in-state matchup for the Arkansas basketball team. They're going to play the University of Central Arkansas, the UCA Bears. The first time that the Razorbacks have gone out of system and played a team in a while, Scotty. They played Arkansas State in an NIT game a while back, but Arkansas made a commitment in multiple sports to play teams in system, which would mean UAPB and UALR. And baseball has done that. Softball has done that. We've seen that happen. Women's basketball, but it's been the first time that the men will step out in a real game. They played UALR in an exhibition last year, but first time they'll step out, play UCA. But first, let's start with Southern. 79-44 win. First of all, it's just great that the Razorbacks got to get out on the floor. They were originally scheduled to travel to Tulsa, but no offense to Southern, they are in the SWAC, and they're a better team than Arkansas played in Mississippi Valley State, which is also in the SWAC. But still, it's not the same playing Southern at home versus going to Tulsa and playing them.
No, it's definitely not. I was really looking forward to seeing Arkansas kind of getting tested for the first time this season at Tulsa. But, some things that Arkansas has no control over, took place. And, Arkansas did its best in basically no time, like 2 days, put together a game. And playing a game is better than not. And for a lot of those players, playing Southern is a lot better than another day of practice. And so I know they were really excited about that. Moses Moody kind of mentioned it earlier in the week that, once the season starts, guys kind of get into a routine where you got a couple of days of practice, then a game, a couple of days of practice, then a game. And he didn't want that routine to be, kind of thrown off. So he was pretty pumped about playing. And I was looking at some of the numbers on KenPom, and Arkansas's defensive efficiency rating was under 60 against Southern, which I think it was 59.9, which is the second best mark Arkansas's had under Eric Musselman. So, it maybe wasn't the most exciting or aesthetically pleasing game, but Arkansas was nails on the defensive end. And, they got double figure scoring games from 6 different guys, including Devo Davis, who, he was the star of the second half. It was fun to see him out there working a little bit.
It's always nice to have different guys step up. And we knew coming into this season that Arkansas had those weapons. Arkansas had guys that could step up on any given night. And for the first few games, it's been the usual suspects, the guys that you'd think. Connor Vanover, who has been steady Eddie, and we'll talk a little bit more about him later. Scotty's got some just mind-boggling stats about Connor.
It really is. It's mind-blowing. You're right.
But then you also had the other. Moses Moody has stepped up. Justin Smith at times has been an elite scorer. JD Note, Jalen Tate is doing what he's doing. By the way, a nasty one-handed slam going back to that game against Southern. And then also Justin Smith saying, "Look out below" in the first half.
Watch your head.
Dang, he put his knee into some dude's face. That's impressive. But, you have all of these guys, but then you also have the freshmen that you were expecting to step up. And, Moses Moody has been doing that, but then also to see the guys step up in the second half. And so I think that it's good for Arkansas. Would you like to see them get tested? Yes. Would you like them to play more competition so that you will know what's going to happen when you're at the end of December and you're playing Auburn? Yeah, for sure. I think Muss would love for that to happen as well. But playing a game is better than not playing a game in every aspect of the way. So you take what you can from this and you move on. and get ready. There's only 3 games left before conference play.
Yeah, that's kind of insane. And, just going back to Southern, that was a game. I think the coaching staff and the players knew that Arkansas was going to be able to handle its business and be able to, empty the bench out, which they did. Like even Bryson Moorhead got into the game, and Brendan Kimball, I think, checked in with like 4 or 5 minutes left. So Arkansas was like, even in the second half, we saw Eric Musselman really tinkering with some lineups. Like at one point, Arkansas's 4 freshmen were out there with Vance Jackson. Like that's a pretty small group, but you never know how things are going to go in SEC play. You might actually have to play that group at some point, if you get into foul trouble, or maybe a guy's missing the game because he tested positive for COVID, or he's been hit with the contact tracing. So you just never know. I thought Jalen Williams was pretty solid too. He played 13 minutes. He missed all 3 of his shots. We grabbed a couple rebounds and blocked 2 shots. I think I don't think he's at the point where he's going to get just a ton of minutes. Like as of right now, where his game is, I don't know that he would get a ton of minutes in SEC play. But that's what these games are for. And like he's building confidence. Teammates are, trusting him a little bit more, and he's protecting the rim pretty well. But Devo he was so good. Eric Musselman talked a lot in the preseason just about how he's got this innate ability to track down loose balls. And his length has a lot to do with that, and his motor too. Like he's instant energy. And it was good to see him, hit a few shots. He was 3 of 3 from the line, and he was 4 of 7 from the floor. Missed a couple of shots inside, but I liked his shot selection. Like I don't think he took really a bad shot. And, maybe if the game wasn't so out of hand, he had one play, I remember, where he cut baseline, caught a pass, and got a defender in the air with a shot fake, and then threw up a shot that probably would have drawn a whistle, if the game had been a little bit more competitive. But that's, again, out of his hands. But he was really good. He's going to continue to improve. And he finished with 7 rebounds too. He only played 16 minutes, which is awesome. Anytime a guard can go out there and grab rebounds in bulk, that's a huge plus.
Yeah, and going through and looking at some of the stats, Scotty, you look and Arkansas only shooting 8 of 17 from the free throw line. You'd like to see that improve, but there's not a whole lot that you can be upset about. They out-rebounded Southern, which they're going to do, especially with a guy like Connor Vanover. Second chance points, they scored 21 of those. Points in the paint, 32. Fast break points, 16. And then I think a big one as well is they had 16 assists. Musselman has pointed out that he wants to have over 200 passes in the game, in something that they did in their previous game before they played Southern. So I think that that's something that they can hang their hat on and say, all right, this is something that we did good against Southern, and continue to develop that, and especially against teams that maybe aren't of the highest competition. But good stuff all around. And as you mentioned, Desi Sills, I know that we all know, Scotty, that you love him, but he is truly being a leader out there on the court, it seems like to me, doing all the dirty stuff. And he's not going to lead the team in scoring every single night, but he is a weapon that the Razorbacks can use for sure.
Yeah, he finished with, I think he was 1 assist shy of tying a career high in assists. And Wednesday against Southern was just the second game of his career where he's had more than 3 assists in a game without a turnover. So Eric Musselman said he really liked the way he has really liked the way that Desi has kind of transitioned into being a guy who, is known more as just a guy who can really attack the rim aggressively and score in transition and also hit the 3. But he's sharing the ball. Like those 5 assists were pretty impressive. Like they led to 12 points. And I think he found 3 different guys for those 5 scores that led to those points. And he's doing a good job of, I think, kind of transitioning into being, more of a combo type guard where he's got some point guard responsibilities, but he's still locked in, shooting the ball from the perimeter when he needs to.
All right, Scotty, we teased it earlier. Connor Vanover has just been a fantastic addition to this Arkansas Razorback basketball team. almost to the point of you're almost now starting to take him for granted in the fact of whenever a guy drives down low, you're going to have the 7'3" guy there to contest a shot. And he's going to alter shots that he doesn't even get a hand on because guys are thinking about him. There are stats now. Scotty has pulled up, and there's a body of work now through 5 games that you can kind of pick out and understand. Through 5 games, when Connor Vanover is on the floor, the Arkansas Razorbacks are much, much better.
Oh yeah, no doubt. And that screenshot that I sent you earlier is just the last 2 games, which is it's still really good. Like Connor's been on the floor for 95 defensive possessions, and Lipscomb and Southern have scored collectively 0.45 points per possession, that's outrageous. Like Eric Musselman tweeted the other day that he feels good about his team's offensive play when they score 1.1 points per possession in a game. And when Connor's on the floor, I mean, the Arkansas's defensive numbers are just outrageous. And the last 2 games, Lipscomb and Southern 25.5% on 2-point shots, and they're shooting 10% from 3, which is it's crazy. I sent you I think let me go back and find this real fast. Arkansas is just, they're so good with Connor on the floor, and I think Arkansas is outscored those 2 teams like 112-43 in the last 2 games when Connor's in the lineup, and he's been so dominant. And the thing that's most impressive to me is that he's been whistled for 4 fouls this year, and so he's averaging 4.5 blocks for every foul that he's whistled for.
Not 4 fouls in a game, 4 fouls the entire season.
Yeah, he's averaging, according to KenPom, he's averaging, I think, 1.8 fouls per 40 minutes played. And it's outrageous. And then I was looking some more at those numbers. He's blocking almost 18% of opponents' 2-point shots when he's on the floor. So he's been incredibly dominant, but I've been really impressed with his defensive discipline. And I understand, he's 7'3" and he can block shots more often than not without making much contact, but still, like, I don't think he's been whistled for a foul in Arkansas's. Yeah, he's been whistled for 1 foul in Arkansas's last 2 games, and he hasn't been whistled for a foul in two of Arkansas's 5 games. So his defensive discipline, and just not just blocking shots, but altering them too, and making guys think twice about putting a shot up.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I wasn't on the interview with Musselman because I was doing women's basketball, but Musselman said in the postgame that he wished he would have played Connor more. He played 20 minutes yesterday. Is that correct?
Yeah, just 20 minutes. I
think that Musselman, while he would want to play Connor more than 20 minutes, and I think that Connor can play more than 20 minutes, I think that that 20 to 25 minutes is right in the sweet spot of Connor to where he can be the most effective when he is out there on the court. Not saying that there won't be games when Connor will be needed for 30, 35 minutes in the game, but I think that Musselman knows, and obviously he's studied it, done the research behind it because he's the coach getting paid millions of dollars, but he knows how to best use Connor Vanover in the situation that he's been given, because in those games where he does play 35 minutes, it's probably going to be against a team like UNT, to where with North Texas, to where he can stay on the court because they don't want to push the pressure.
Right.
I think that if you keep Connor out there for 35 minutes against a team that wants to run up and down the court, then you will start to see his effectiveness start to fall. I think it's almost on a bell curve, and you want to see how many minutes you can play Connor Vanover without him starting to decrease on that bell curve. Now, I'm not saying that he can't handle it, but also when you're 7'3", running up and down the court isn't your favorite thing in the world. It just can't be. So Musselman, while he was upset that Connor Vanover didn't play more, I think that 20 to 25 minutes is the perfect amount to where you can get the absolute most out of Connor Vanover. He can be the absolute most effective for your team, and will give Arkansas the best chance to win.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. And I think him not playing more than 20 minutes against Southern was kind of twofold. It's, the game was so out of reach that, why push it? I mean, you don't want something freaky to happen when there's literally no reason for Connor to be on the floor. And one of the reasons that he was able to sit because the game was out of reach is because he's part of that starting group that's been so good right out of the gates. Like Arkansas in his 20 minutes outscored Southern by 30 points, which allowed him to sit, which is crazy just because he was so good. Like he grabbed 9 rebounds and blocked 3 shots and had 3 steals in his 20 minutes. Like he could not have played better. And then something else that I liked was, against Lipscomb, he came out and hit 2 threes, just bang, bang, just right out of the gate. And then he missed his next 6. And against Southern, he missed his first 2. So he missed 8 straight threes. But I think he ended his night with a 3 from the top of the key too. So, you got basically everything that you could have out of Connor. There's no telling what his numbers would have looked like if he would have played, maybe even five more minutes. Like if he would have played 30, then, you could have seen another 15 rebound, 5 block, 5 steal game. Like he's been that effective defensively.
I'm going to put you on the spot here, Scotty, and give you some time to maybe research this. Is Arkansas shooting more threes this year than they were last year? And as I put you on the spot and let you look that up real quick, it just seems like to me Arkansas is more dependent on the 3, but they also have more shooters. You're not throwing out Adriel Bailey and Jimmy Witt, who both aren't going to shoot threes. I mean, Jimmy Witt literally was allergic to it, like Mike Leach is allergic to the run. But now when you put Connor Vanover out there on the court in a starting 5 with, him, Smith, Sills, Moody, and Tate, all 5 of those guys can shoot. So I think that, at least to me, they shot 33% last night, 11 of 33, I believe. Yep. But I think it's not a bad thing, but it seems like to me that they are shooting more. Is that factually correct?
Yeah. According to what I'm looking at on KenPom, last year, almost 40% of Arkansas's field goal attempts were threes, which ranked outside the top 100 according to KenPom. And then this year they're, about 45% of their shots have come from 3-point range.
Like I said, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. It's where the game has gone. If you've watched an NBA game,
you don't have maybe the quality of shooters, as like an Isaiah Joe or a Mason Jones, but those 2 dudes they were special from 3. You got some guys on this roster that can really fill it up from the perimeter, but I think you just have more solid shooters, maybe more so than just a couple really, really special ones. But Moses Moody's definitely he's got the potential to definitely jump up into that star class as a perimeter threat.
He's heating up, and then you also have Desi that is not having a early season slump like he has really his past 2 years with the Hogs. He went 3 of 5 in yesterday's game. So I think all of those things factor into Arkansas is going to shoot more 3-pointers this year overall. And as I said multiple times already, I don't think that's a bad thing. 3 is worth more than 2 if my math holds up, which I think it does.
Yeah, as long as their quality looks, I don't think Eric Musselman's going to have a real problem with it. What makes him slap the top of the scores table in frustration is like those quick threes in transition, maybe when you got numbers, maybe in the first 5 to 7 seconds of the shot clock that JD Note has been a little bit prone to take. I think his efficiency is something that we need to watch this year. He played 15 minutes against Southern and took 11 shots. Like, I don't know, like I know he's more of a shoot first scoring type guard. But yeah, I think his number one, his efficiency might need to make an improvement, and that's just going to come with better decision making and shot selections. Right now, when he's on the floor, he's taking 30% of Arkansas shots, and when he's on the floor, 29% of Arkansas's possessions are ending in a made shot from him, a missed shot, or a turnover from him. So that's something I have no doubt that Eric Musselman is in JD Note's ear about. Just got to be a little bit more efficient and a little bit more selective with his shots. But at the same time, you want to keep him aggressive, because you see the types of plays last night where he kind of made that kind of the circus layup. Those are plays that I feel like not many other guys on the roster can make, but JD Note, he's special when it comes to that.
Yeah, his ability after he shoots a few times from the outside to get people to over guard him, and then him be able to blow by them and make layups He's done that a few times this year.
His shot fake is lethal, and once he puts the ball on the floor, his footwork is pro level. It's just with him, it's just decision making, shot selection. I think that's we see an improvement in that. Maybe his efficiency can see an uptick, and Muss might trust him to play just a little bit more.
All right, Scotty, let's look ahead. Rest of Arkansas schedule, we mentioned it earlier. Only 4 games left in the non-conference. They will play Saturday against UCA, and then they're going to be off a week because of finals. And then they're going to play Oral Roberts on Sunday, December 20th, a little Sunday action game for you. And then come back and play Abilene Christian. Oh, pardon me, I said 4. There's only 3 games left. So 3 games left before you go to Auburn on Wednesday, December 30th. So you also have kind of interesting the way the schedule breaks down. You have 2 in these next 3 games, you're going to have a week between 2 of them. So it'll be interesting to see how the Hogs respond during this time. But also, no offense to Abilene Christian, Oral Roberts, or even Central Arkansas, like you have 3 games to gear up, but you better play and be playing your best ball as you get to these 3 games before you have to travel to Auburn.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And UCA, I was just looking at some of their numbers. They play a tempo faster than any team that Arkansas has seen this year. Like they're top 5 in the country in terms of adjusted tempo, according to KenPom. They're averaging like almost 77 possessions a game. So they're going to want to push the pace, but they're really turnover prone. Like over 30% of their possessions have resulted in a turnover this season in their first 3 games. And Arkansas, I think, is probably going to have to. I don't think Arkansas can overlook Oral Roberts right now. Like Oral Roberts has a kid, sophomore guard named Max Admus. He is lighting it up recently. Like he's shooting almost 50% from threes, hit 15 threes. He just put 36. 6 rebounds, 9 assists on Oklahoma State. And then against Wichita State, he had 28 points, 6 rebounds, 8 assists. Like he's going to be a problem. And then they opened the season against Missouri. He went for 18 points, 5 assists. So Arkansas is going to have to be really locked in for that game. Like it's not like they can't overlook Oral Roberts. And Arkansas has been really good defensively to this point, but they're going to really have to hone in on him and really try to limit him. And that's something that Arkansas has done pretty well to this point in the season, is just limiting opponents. I don't know, maybe not their leading score all the time, but that second and third option, just kind of tying an arm behind their back on the offensive end. But yeah, I mean, I think you want to see Arkansas just be a little bit cleaner in terms of like turnovers and executing your sets in the half court. Eric Musselman's given this team a little bit more freedom over the last couple of games to just kind of make things happen on their own. But maybe in these next 3 games, you kind of see Arkansas, put a little bit more emphasis on trying to execute in half court, because that's a lot of times in the SEC, that's what it comes down to. Like, can you get multiple scores on multiple possessions, consecutive possessions in SEC play when a game, turns into a half court type game?
We'll definitely have to see how it shakes out for the Razorbacks. Razorbacks 5 games have played. They're 5-0. That is the most games played in the SEC, tied for the most with Mississippi State. Mississippi State is 3-2. The rest of the league really played 4 games. South Carolina off to their traditional slow start, 1-2. Kentucky 1-3. There is still 1 team that has not played a game this year. Can you name it off the top of your head?
It's Ole Miss.
Yeah, Ole Miss has not played a game yet, and we are Arkansas is 3 games away from conference play. So you do have to feel fortunate. The fact that Arkansas has gotten 5 games in, whether or not they've been against the competition that you'd like them to. They aren't Kentucky going out and playing Kansas and whoever else Kentucky's played this year. They've played somebody else. But still, you've gotten 5 games in. Kind of the usual suspects at the top of the conference as we kind of round it out. Arkansas, Missouri, Florida, and A&M sitting up there. Tennessee's there as well. It's going to be an interesting SEC season. I think with the lack of games being played before and COVID, I think that there's going to be some parity to where you might have a team with 4 SEC losses can win the conference, just because that's how it might shake out. Kentucky's obviously going to get better. They do every year.
I'm a little bit concerned about them, to be honest with you, right now. Like, they've lost 3 straight, and they just got blown out at Georgia Tech the other night. Like, weren't even in the game. You got blown out by 17 on the road. I mean, that's just not at all what I was expecting out of this team. I figured they might, figure some things out after they lost to Richmond, but your next game is Kansas. They did play a lot better against Kansas than they did against Richmond, but I mean, that game at Georgia Tech was a huge letdown.
For whatever reason, I never get my hopes up that Kentucky is going to be bad or struggle, because 90% of the time they pull it out. I think under Coach Cal, they did have 1 year where they went to the NIT.
That team is just really turnover prone. They don't have a lot of perimeter threats, and defensively they just don't turn teams over. And they've got youth every year, but I don't know, maybe it's taken this bunch a little bit longer to, maybe adapt to the college game than most of Cal's teams do.
We'll definitely have to see. Well, the Razorbacks, as we said, play Saturday against UCA. Tip time for that game is at 7 p.m. So sit down at 11, watch the Arkansas football team, and then take you a little break before you come back and watch the Arkansas basketball team. All right. Well, Scotty, really appreciate you joining us here today.
Absolutely, dude. Thanks.
Well, for Scotty Bordelon, I am Seth Campbell saying so long. If you like the podcast, make sure to subscribe, share it with your friends, and then also just stay tuned on this same podcasting network, because coming up tomorrow, the Whole Hog podcast will drop. Get you ready for Arkansas versus Alabama. We talk a little bit on that podcast as well about where Arkansas might end up in a bowl, because it's looking more and more likely that Arkansas will indeed get to play some postseason football. So that'll be interesting and exciting for the Razorbacks in year 1 under Sam Pittman. So make sure to subscribe. Stay tuned for that. Well, for Scotty Borderline, I am Seth Campbell saying thank you for joining us, and we will see you back here next week.